So what I'm going to discuss tonight is this. Is getting a personal trainer completely transformational, or is it a total waste of money? Now, you might think I'm biased because this is me. Absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Being able to stand up with next to nothing on, covered in completely in gravy. But what I'm going to share with you tonight in this video, what I consider to be the 3 benefits of using a personal trainer, the 3 downsides to using a personal trainer, but most importantly, the 5 things you really should consider if you're going to dip your foot into the PT, personal training arena. But I am also going to bring my personal experience in because I have used 2 personal trainers. Most of the time I've not, but I have used 2. So I'm going to bring that experience to bear with you. And so for me, there are 3 benefits from using a personal trainer. The first is knowledge, the second is accountability, the third is personalization. So when it comes to knowledge, we don't know what we don't know. And that might seem like really obvious, but I run a school community. So if you go over to school.com and look for my community, you're more than welcome to join. Lose 50 over 50. Just a bunch of guys in there. We're all helping each other to achieve our goals of losing a lot of sausage. Anyway, one of the guys went, you know what, I don't need a personal trainer because I can learn it all on YouTube. And I'm like, I get that. 100%, I get that. But the problem with YouTube is it's a bit like using AI, like ChatGPT. It's only as good as the prompt. It's only as good as the user. And so the problem is if you're going into YouTube, you can go down a rabbit hole like mega deep and come out and kind of be none the wiser, which, you know, is not where you want to be. And so the thing is, do you know what you're looking for? That's the biggest problem. And because I like podcasts, I listen to a lot, and it's really my kind of learning of choice. But there is some big I'm not going to name names, but there's one that's a huge podcast, and it's had a lot of people on there talking about health and fitness and losing weight and all kinds of stuff to do with weight management. And there are some people on there who've had absolutely diametrically opposing views. And it's like, who do you believe? And these are supposed to be great sources. So the fact is that we don't know what we don't know. And, you know, when I first started getting involved in losing weight, because in my 20s I trained really hard, in my 30s I got like super fat, and then at 43, bang, I'd had enough, decided to lose some weight. And just the ego in me was horrific, because I sat there and I went, I'm not going to use a personal trainer, I'm not going to use a mentor, I'm not going to use a Facebook group, I'm not going to use a coach, I'm not going to get a friend to come and train with me, I'm not going to get a training partner, I'm going to do it all on my own. And I did. And in 5 months and 18 days, I lost 5 stone, which is 70 pounds, but it's like slightly over, it's 72 pounds, which is like 33, 34 kilos. So it was like a great success. And it's like, well, you're proving your own point. But the thing is, I just did it, I raw dogged it. I just was like, went in deep, did it on my own and ground it out. And that really worked until like a few months later. And it wasn't because I put any weight on or anything to do with that. It was just, I'd got to know all the personal trainers in the gym because I was going in 6 days a week. I was going in lifting weights, doing the CV, going to spinning classes, burning the lard. And so I got to know the personal trainers quite well. And, you know, because they all hang around like hookers on a street corner. Right? All right, yeah. All right. They all hang around like hookers. And so I got to know them pretty well. And one of the guys I got to know really well, we became quite friendly, and we'd always chat with him, and it was all good in the hood. And then I just sat there and thought, you know what, I'm going to use a personal trainer, and I'm going to use him. And so I'm like, not quite sure where it's going to go, but I went for it. And I said, I'm going to pay for a few sessions, let's see where it takes us. He said, fine. So the very first session, we go on the floor, and he says, I want you to use a foam roller. Dan, I don't know if you know what a foam roller is, but it's exactly as it sounds. It's a long, solid tube of foam about this big, you know, round. You use it to kind of iron out your back, get rid of all the gristle, as my physio would say. And I seen other people using them and thought, what are they using that for? That's a waste of time. Well, he said, I want you to go on the floor and use a foam roller. So I'm going along and I'm doing it kind of up the side of my leg. And he went, can you feel anything? No. Can you feel anything? No. And then I rolled it a bit higher and he said, can you feel something? And I couldn't speak because I was I felt like somebody was stood on my chest. I couldn't breathe. The pain was horrific. And then do you know what the fuck I did? It leant on my leg, and it was like pain I'd never had. And then I realised the value of doing foam rolling. So the thing is, he had knowledge about the benefit of it in terms of being able to iron out your muscles and be able to get rid of the knots. And I didn't have that. And so yeah, I'd seen other people doing it. And that was one of those things then that made me realise that one of the values is they just bring knowledge. The second bit of knowledge he brought in particular was about form. And this isn't kind of knowledge as much as it is about approach. But he was anally specific about how neat and perfect your form had to be, because he said, I've only got one goal, Dave, with every client: don't get injured. Not on my shift, not on my watch. And I didn't. And he just said he made me do perfect form. And up until that point, I've been kind of throwing the weights around, doing my best, being a bit loose in my technique. And all of a sudden that changed. And so his attitude, his knowledge about what was best, and also he mixed it up. It would make me do exercises I'd not done. I'd never done any kettlebell training till I did it with him. And then it was like, and it was great because all of a sudden I was doing things I hadn't done before, and he had knowledge about what would work. And then, but later on when I went to get my second personal trainer, and I'll show you. He got me in my undercrackers. So I literally walked through the door, never met the guy, walked through the door, and he just looked at me and went, strip off down to your undercrackers. I was like, this is great. Is this some kind of sex den? Because if it is, I'm definitely staying. And it wasn't, so I was bitterly disappointed. But he made me stand next to an amazing bodybuilder called Pete Goodall, who was competing a few days later. Pete's like 6 foot tall, amazing physique, looks like nothing on earth, looks like a Greek god, beautiful boy, just, the people you really want to punch in the face because you hate them for no reason. And I was stood next to him like a proper, with a body like a drop blancmange, right? And, that was is we're going to go down to the gym straight away. I've got my own gym. We're going to go down Sunday afternoon. I'm like, I'm not wired for this. I only train in the morning. I've all that stuff. He says, no, we're going to go down and train. So we go down, and he completely beasted me. But the knowledge that he brought was incredible because, again, simple. And that was, I go in the gym, I lift as heavy as I can. But of course, what you do is you get injured. So I'm smashing my body to bits. And then what I do is I go and see the physio. She would just kind of do a jiggery pokery, around the whole body. Then put me, cover me in pink physio tape, kick me back out. I'd go back in the gym. I'd cut down my weights 40-50%, and then work my way back up. And I was just in this vicious circle. When I went to see Sam, he says, we're not going to do that. We're going to do phased training. And I'm like, never seen that before anywhere. Nobody's ever mentioned that, nothing. And he goes, so what you do is you split your body up into 3 different sections: push, pull, and legs, basically. And he's like, right. And he said, what you're going to do is you're going to do 3 sessions on all the body parts, super heavy. Most you can lift 8 to 10 reps. I'm like, okay, that's what I've been doing. Then you're going to do a phase called super slow. 5-second reps up, 5-second reps down. Okay. And he said, and I worked out that was about 60% of what a super heavyweight would be. Then he said you're going to do before ready, which is like a rest pause. So you go like crazy until you can't move the bar. You hold it under tension, wait 4 seconds, 5 seconds, go again. 2 or 3 more reps, exhaust the muscle. That's about 80% of super heavy. And then the last one is tempo, 30 minimum reps. Just keep going at a steady tempo until eventually the bar stops. You've got to make sure you get 30 reps. And that's about 50% of your super heavy weight. So what you're doing is you're splitting it up. You're going through these phases. But the most important thing is that the super heavy stuff was only 25% of the time. So guess what? injuries drop like a stone. And I'd never thought of that. And that was the astonishing knowledge that obviously that he brought. But also, you know, the thing is, when it comes to learning, we have to overcome our biases, don't we? Because, you know, life's kind of tricky. I'm nearly 60, just figured this out. But the problem is that we all have beliefs. We have a belief system. So in there's all these little bags of beliefs. And what we all like to believe is that we're open-minded enough to take on new ideas. So if somebody comes up and he goes, I've got some science, I've got some information, I've got proof that, you know what you're thinking there? It's kind of not true. And you want to believe that you're the open-minded person to turn around and go, excuse me, fair enough. But the thing is that if everything you believed was up for grabs, you'd never believe anything, and then you'd never move forward. It's only that you believe this is the best way forward that allows you to kind of progress at all. And so the thing is that you're always looking for confirmation bias. You know, the big ones are clearly religion and politics. And so the thing is, when it comes to learning, it is very, very difficult to sit there and go, well, what I've been doing all these years, like this, just going out there and smashing it, doing some heavy lifting, that's the best way forward. That is very tricky to help you. That's a difficult belief system to overcome. But it's because they've got the experience, they've got the learning, they've been doing it with 100 other clients. They know what is good. And that's the knowledge that they bring. It's not just raw knowledge about eat this or do that. It's a whole bag of tricks backed up by a massive amount of knowledge and experience. And that's what they do. But also what I find is that if you get a good personal trainer that can have specific knowledge. And so, for example, with Sam, I was dieting for my competition. I'll show you again. Thing is that, you know, once you're trying to get that lean, you know, you're gonna hit a plateau. There's gonna be a point where you just the body weight is just not coming down. And a great technique for plateauing or overcoming a plateau is carb cycling, carbohydrate cycling. So it's dead simple. What you do is, day one, you're eating 100% of your carbs. Say you're eating 200 grams of carbs a day. You eat 200. Day two, you only eat 75% of the carbs, but the same of the rest of the food. So it's less calories, but you're only cutting out the carbs. Day three, 50%. Day four, depends how you do it, 25%. And then if you really want to go for it, you got out to zero on day five. That is a day you'll never forget. And it is harder than trying to do a Rubik's Cube with oven mitts on. It is painful, but it shifts it. Trust me, it shifts it. Carb cycling is bizarre in its effectiveness, how effective it is. And I'd never heard of it. And it's only when I started talking to Sam, he said, look, well, this is what you need to do. Have a go at carb cycling. And it worked. And so, you know, when you're looking to go into an area, you're looking for someone who's already been there, worked with others, done it themselves, and ultimately, and that's what I found when I got Sam in particular. As for the bodybuilding stuff, again, audition and get on stage in front of family, friends, in front of my kids and compete. If I didn't have his knowledge, there was so much I just didn't know. I didn't know about salt intake in the last week, how to carb up, how to manage water, how to pose, how to put a routine together to show my physique off to the best way. I didn't know any of it. So the fact is that knowledge is massive. And this is what I do. My job, my daytime job is as a presentation skills coach. And so people come to me. I've got a guy next week. He's doing a big talk. We've been working on his talk, and it's pharmaceutical. And what he's doing is he came to me and he said, right, this is what I need to say. These are the kind of points I've got to get across. This is the audience, and you know, this is my job, and I've got to get this across in 15 minutes. And I'm like, I can help you with that because I've got 30 years of speaking. I've spoken, worked with 3,500 chief execs in various capacities over the last 30 years. I've spent the last 15 years as a presentation skills coach doing nothing but working on presentations across the globe in every single industry. So I've got the same knowledge to help my clients that a PT would potentially, a personal trainer would potentially have for you. Second thing is personalization. So first one is knowledge, second is personalization. We are unique, aren't we? We are unique little chickens, but like we really, really are, because when you walk through the door of a gym, for example, and you decide you're going to get a personal trainer, you come with you come up with your own unique pattern, so to speak. So it's whether it's injuries, whether it's desired outcomes, what it is you want to achieve. Is it strength? Is it tone? Is it bodybuilding? Is it getting in? Is it wanting to compete? Not bodybuilding, but maybe in high rocks, or what is it you want to do? But also you've got this other stuff going on in the background. You've got the lifestyle, how much money you can afford, whether you travel a great deal, whether you've got any kids, whether you're married. All of this comes into play. And what you're looking for is personalization. You want a PT to say, I know what you need, and there it is, and they take you through the program. Now, when I started out with Richard, my first personal trainer, it was back in 2011. I'd already lost it, and then I'm thinking, you know what? I want to learn a bit more about bodybuilding. So I looked at all the personal trainers in the gym, got to know them well, and Richard was the only one who'd actually competed in bodybuilding at a pretty high level. He was a natural bodybuilder. So I trained back in the 20s in a gym where everybody was taking steroids and taking gear, and I never did. It just wasn't my thing. And 30 years later, what I'm wanting to do 25 years later is I want to train with somebody who's natural. I don't want to necessarily get trained by somebody who's a massive monster, because I can't relate to that. And so he competed, he was natural, and that's what I did. And the thing is that the reason is because what I wanted to learn was I wanted to learn about bodybuilding. I didn't have any inclination to compete at the time. And the reason why I bring that up, though, is, and forget about whether you want to, the bodybuilding side, what I think is really, really important when you get a personal trainer is to reverse engineer. And again, back in my school group, lose 50 over 50, bunch of guys over there, chat every day, discuss about how we can support each other to help achieve our goals. Go over there if you want to school.com, go lose 50 over 50, come over and check us out. It's free. Come and have a look. And there was a guy in there and we were talking. And, but a few guys had said this actually. They said, look, I just want to be lighter. I know you want to get back into bodybuilding shape, which is my goal. I'm halfway through losing 80 pounds. And my goal is to get back looking, basic. But what I don't see is enough people thinking about the end result and what it is that they want to look like. And because the thing is, if you don't know what it is you want to look like, then you may not be as happy with the result as you feel. And I get it. I started 5 months ago on this diet, 4 months ago, and I was like 270 pounds. And yet your instinct is just let me be less of myself. Just let me be lighter. Let me get rid of some of this fat because I just need to be smaller. And of course, when you show a photo, there is no sound. Thank you very much, mate. Right, well, I need to remember that. Let me just take a second. Because what I'm doing is I'm doing it slightly different this time. No sound when show picture. Brilliant. Thank you. Right, so the thing is that when it comes to reverse engineer, I think everybody should just look. What is it you really want to achieve? What is it you want to look like at the end? I'm not saying you should look like a condom full of conkers, right? Condom full of walnuts, to coin a phrase, with muscle bulging everywhere. But also, if all you want to do is just be less of yourself, then you may not be as happy as you want because, at the end, you might have a body like a broken lava lamp. It might all be all soft and saggy and, and all the rest of it. Now, I'm going to have loose skin at the end of this. I had loose skin when I was on a bodybuilding stage. I did. But the fact is that, I know it's going to happen. And that's why I'm working so hard on the weights. I'm banging in the protein at a really high level. I'm increasing the intensity of my training so that hopefully it's just going to make me look the best I can. Not because I want to compete in bodybuilding or walk down the street and have girls running after me, but because I want to make sure that I've got, the best look at the end. So reverse engineer. And the fact is that when you use a personal trainer, if you know what your end result is going to be, then you've got a better chance of getting a personal trainer that will help you meet those needs. Plus, the thing is, over time, they get to know you well. So it's another advantage of being using a personal trainer. They get to know you. They get to know where your idiosyncrasies are. If you sign up for, say, 12 months, you're going to spend a fair bit of time with them. They're going to get to know you well. Number 3, accountability. I've never needed it. I've never needed accountability for just to get into the gym. It's never been an issue for me. I would move my bed into the gym if I could. I have a gym at home. I would sleep in there. I would just live in there. Honestly, it'd be delivery coming to the front door, to the garage door, lift it up. Yeah, leave it there, mate. Thanks very much. Because that's, I love it so much. So training is not necessarily an issue. Food, of course. I've been eating my own body weight in donuts. That's why I got up to 270 pounds. I've been training solid for 14 years, but my weight has gone up and down 290 pounds. Hello, Skippy. And the fact is that some people are not wired like that. Sometimes people need a kick up the arse, and if you need it and it helps you, then there's nothing going to help you get to the gym more than knowing that you're paying for a session and somebody's waiting to kick your arse. The second thing is that it celebrates successes. So I've lost 40 pounds. And I went to see my daughter yesterday, and I don't know, it might be about 8 weeks since I've seen her. And then last time I'd have been in a big hoodie. Well, yesterday I was wearing I was feeling sexy. And so I put on a nice shirt, and it wasn't really, really tight or anything, but it fitted me. It's a fitted shirt jacket thing. I put it on, I sat down, not a word. And then Karen just went, "Oh, Dave's lost some weight." And she went, "Oh, I thought you looked thinner in the face." I went, "Yeah, I've lost 3 stone, Danielle." And that was it. That was the end of the conversation. So the biggest issue is nobody gives a fuck. Like, nobody gives a shit. I mean, even your nearest and dearest, you sit there, with your life partner, your spouse, and you go, "I've lost some weight." Well done. Brilliant. Proud of you. What do you want for your dinner? I wanted to just celebrate losing some weight. Do you mind? And so the thing is that absolutely nobody cares as much as you, apart from your personal trainer, because they've got a vested interest, not just in taking the money, but also because you then become a shining light for other clients, but also because they're doing it's their job. They're out there doing 40, 50 hours a week from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, which is not unheard of for personal trainers, because people want to come before and after work. It's tough life. And so therefore, when you succeed, they succeed. And so actually having a personal trainer, someone who is genuinely interested in what you do, is amazing. When I used my first personal trainer, we didn't stay together a long time, probably 3 or 4 months, because I just didn't need my arse kicking. I learnt enough off him. So it wasn't as important for me. But the second one, when I used Sam, and I'll bring it up, I'll show you Sam again, and I won't speak this time. So that's me and Sam, and that's just after I went up and got an award for for transformation. But I came off that bodybuilding stage. It had been very stressful. It had been a lot of effort, hardest thing I'd ever done. I came off and I just walked up to Sam and I just threw myself in his arms and started crying, and it was just wild because he. That's how much it meant to me, and I wanted to show him, but I didn't cry on it on purpose. Obviously, it was just a release of all the stress and tension. But we talked about it afterwards, and he said, it showed him what It showed him what it meant to somebody to get in shape, get on a bodybuilding stage, do all the stuff that he shares. And the only people that really truly understand that is you doing it and your personal trainer. So I think from that perspective, getting a personal trainer is incredible. And so those are the three pros: knowledge, personalization, and accountability. So let's get onto the cons. Let's get onto the negatives, because to me, they're very, very evenly balanced, probably about the same. Well, the first one is, and the three are cost, quality, and human factor. So the first thing is cost. Now, this is entirely personal. But say you're getting a session, it's 50 quid a time, £50, 50 of our beautiful British pounds, and, you know, say $75. If you're going to do a couple of sessions a week, that's like £5,000 a year. If you sign up for a couple of years, that's £10,000. It's like, you know, it's getting on for, it's 10 grand. It's obviously $15,000 over 2 years. That's a lot of money. I mean, I'm from Halifax. You can buy a house in Halifax for that much. Just in case you've never heard of Halifax, Halifax is a small town in the north of England, and it's got 50,000 people live here, but there's only 3 surnames in the phone book. Think of it like a town of cousins. It's a rough shithole, but it's my rough shithole, and I love living here. But the fact is, and that's a purely personal thing, it's a lot of money. You've got to take it out. I would never suggest to somebody to get 10 sessions with a personal trainer. You could see some results, but I would suggest that you need to be doing 6 months, because you want to lose the weight slowly. You're probably going to need a couple of sessions a week, so you're doing at least 2 different body parts. Because if you you end up doing a 3-way split, it's called a bro split. Upper, lower legs. Push, pull legs, right? So push is chest, shoulders, triceps. Legs is obviously legs. Pull is back, traps, and biceps. So you split those 3 up. If you only have 1 session a week, it's going to take you 3 weeks to learn something in each of the 3 body sections, depending how your personal trainer works. So I'm thinking you need a couple of sessions a week. You need to do it for 6 months. That's a ton of cash. So that's purely a personal thing. But, don't just throw a few quid at it and hope you're going to get a massive result and it's going to get everything you want, because it's unlikely that's going to happen. The second thing is quality. Now, quality is a very kind of relative term and extremely personal. But what I'm not talking about is the quality of the person in front of you, although I am going to come on to that point a little bit in a minute. But I'm talking about the quality of the match. Because does their knowledge and experience dovetail with what it is that you need? So in the last 14 years, I travel a great deal and I go into public gyms, and obviously I go into my gym and I know a lot of personal trainers. I've probably been in 200 gyms in the last 14 years, give or take. And in those 200 gyms, no, not 200. 100. I'll have definitely been in over 100 gyms. But in those 100 gyms, there's always 3 or 4 personal trainers at any given point. So you're probably looking at 200 to 300 personal trainers I've kind of observed, because I do like to watch them and see what they're doing, because they might teach something to a client over there, and I'll always watch them in between sets. Is there something I can learn? But say I've seen 200 personal trainers in the last 14 years from travel and so on. I can only remember ever seeing probably 5 that were over 40 years of age. Now, by the time I was using Sam, I was nearly 50. And at 50, it's fundamentally different. So for a guy at 50, presuming you're a guy watching this, because that's my target audience, 98% men. But if you're a guy and you're over 40, which is pretty much a given as well, 97% of my audience are 45 or over. The fact is, you start losing testosterone from the age of 40. Your mobility starts going a bit, down. 1% a year from the age of 20. So if you're 50, I'm 57, but if you're 50 looking for a personal trainer, you've lost 12 to 15% of your testosterone. You've lost probably 30% of your mobility. You've probably got 1 or 2 injuries, probably 1 or 2 areas, a few bits of pain here and there. So a kid at 25 who looks like he should be in a boy band and can run through a brick wall, without blinking, has never been a pound overweight. That's not a good mix. You know, what I wanted is somebody who understands. And that's what was interesting with Sam, the second bodybuilder, the second personal trainer I used. He was same age as me, maybe a year or two younger. So I know he was 50 when I was, working out and training with him. So the thing is that we're not talking about the quality of the person. We're talking about the quality of their knowledge and experience, because that is probably the biggest issue. Is how do you find people who really truly understand what it is that you're going through? Because until somebody has been 60, 70, 100 pounds overweight, they will never understand the pain of binge eating, the pain of looking in the mirror and hating what they see, the pain of buying bigger clothes, the pain of mates making a little jibe that they think is funny because they think you can take it, and you can, but at the same time it's upsetting. The pain of being in front of your spouse or your partner that you married 30 years ago, and you're looking at the wedding photo going, holy fuck, I don't look like that anymore. The pain of your kids jumping up and down on you because you think you're a bouncy castle. Yeah. Right. Or the grandkids. One of the grandkids said to me a couple of years ago, why are you fat? Just straight to my face. I mean, I loved the Yorkshireness of it. Straight to my face, why are you fat? But that goes deep. And until somebody's had that level of pain, it's very difficult for them to understand, what it is that you're going through. And maybe they don't need to go through it. Maybe I'm over egging the pudding. But if I've had a personal trainer who'd been through it and now is in great shape and had lost between 50 and 100 pounds, I'd be much more inclined to want to use them. So the fact is, the con is trying to find a personal trainer who truly gets it. And this is what annoys me. When people turn around and say, oh yeah, but I'm a personal trainer. I've worked with 10, 20, 50 people and who were 50 pounds overweight. I get it. And I go, you don't. That's like me saying chocolate cake is amazing. And they go, have you ever eaten chocolate cake? And I go, no. But everybody said it's amazing. And I go, but you've never eaten chocolate cake? And I go, no. And it's the same kind of thing. So actually finding somebody who's a really good match is not always going to be the greatest. It's not going to be the easiest thing to find. The next thing is just knowledge will run out fairly quickly, because they've only got so much stuff they know. They're going to share it with you. 6 months in, I don't know. How much more can they teach? Maybe more than you realise. But it's definitely going to be diminishing returns. That first month, 6 weeks, maybe 8 to 10 weeks, that first 3 months, you're going to be piling in, 12 weeks, 24 sessions, smashing it, learning loads of stuff, losing the weight, everything. And then obviously it's just going to the curve is going to change. And so the thing with personal trainers is the further down the road you get, not entirely sure just how much you're going to, I would be dead blunt and say value for money. So for me, with the first personal trainer, I learned a great deal off him. I did. I learned a lot off him. But it kind of petered out, within a few months. So we spent a good 6 months together, and we became mates, and we carried on being mates, and we kept in touch and so on. But the fact is that the knowledge he gave me wasn't massive. When it came to working with Sam on entering the bodybuilding competition, that was a different kettle of fish. He taught me a new level of hard training. I mean, honestly, he showed me how to go to the edge. I train hard, I train to failure till I can't lift it. But he taught me how to go beyond. It was just wild. So the level of intensity in that was incredible. And of course, when it came to going on competing, there's not a cat in hell chance I could have done it on my own. So I needed a prep coach, and it was an amazing experience. But the fact is, even if you are getting value for money, even if you are getting on well with your, even if you've got a good personal trainer and they're still helping you, still giving you information, there's one last thing, and that is, Tony, mate, I'm coming on to that. Yeah. So Tony's just put in there in the chat, what about how dependent you become on them for motivation to keep going? I'm going to put on there because I put it on my sheet, psychological dependency. Absolutely. And that comes into the last bit, Tony. So the thing is, even if you've got a personal trainer who trains you hard and does everything else, the last downside and challenge, it's not a downside, more like a challenge, is human factor. And what I mean by this what I mean by that is this. I used to see, I was seeing my personal trainer more than I saw my kids. Mind you, I do have some shit kids. I don't need to see my kids. So the fact is that you spend a lot of time, and then because if you're lifting weights with them, unless you're doing circuits and taking zero rest, which is never going to happen, you chat between sets. You get to know them pretty well, and I tell you what, you'd better get on because all of a sudden you find that you've got, like Tony's alluded to in the chat here, you've got some dependency, you've got used to working with them. There's something called sunk cost fallacy, where you might be with somebody and you might thinking, well, this isn't quite the person I thought it was going to be, but I put a lot of money in. I don't want to transfer. There's a transference pain and transference challenge. So it's like, I'm going to stay where I am. Now, trust me, if things go well with a personal trainer on the personal front, happy days. Happy days. I mean, you will achieve things with a personal trainer if it's the right one you could never do on your own. I did. I got myself into amazing shape. I got into a bodybuilding stage. They are there to help you achieve your dreams, and as I've already mentioned, they will stand by you. They will, shoulder to shoulder, lean in when it starts getting shitty, when it starts getting painful, and that's what it will be. I came off stage and I burst into tears. Sam just became this huge personality, physical as well, because he's a monster, but also he just became a massive, massive personality in my life. So when it's going well, it's amazing. But what happened if it doesn't go well? And there are just so many areas it can just crumble. For a start off, they need to know to push you hard enough, but not too hard. And that is unique to each individual. And so with Sam used to push me hard. And I enjoyed it, and it was magnificent. And then when with Karen, he pushed her hard, but not just quite as hard. Not because she was a woman, but because she just didn't want to push that hard. Me, I wanted to train until I broke, until I just split into a million pieces all over the floor. And you learn, how to do that very, very well. But it's amazing how many personal trainers can't. They don't know how. They just don't know where the line is. And they've got to learn that really, really quick, because you don't want to come out feeling like you didn't get a great session, but also you don't want to come out feeling like you got pushed too hard and it was too much, because otherwise you're not going to come back. The second thing is bad mix of personalities. The first personal trainer I got is probably one of the most negative guys I've ever met. And me, I'm relentlessly endlessly positive. Now, it worked for me. Because what I wanted was, I'm like, yeah, come on, fuck it, woo! Right, with everything. I'm like that. I'm a moonshot guy. Everything's going to be amazing. But it was more measured. And that's kind of a bit like Karen and me, my beautiful other half, is that she's very measured. I'm like moonshot, and we just nicely blend in the middle. I need what she has, and she needs what I have, and we work together. And it was the same with the personal trainer. But, some people don't like it. Some people, if they're positive, they only want to be around other positive people. And so there can be a bad mix of personalities. Beliefs. We talked about belief systems earlier. I mean, the big ones are like religion and politics, right? But what happens if all of a sudden they pop up and they just say something and you go, I have a moral and ethical issue with that. And you've been training with them 6 months and they're doing great. And I mean, I've heard some stuff. I've used personal trainers. I've heard about what other personal trainers have said. I'm not going to go into any detail, but some things have been said, and I'm like, why did you say that? Why did you have to say that? And some of it was pretty harsh. And I'm not talking about bad language, because I don't give a fuck. I'm talking about something that is just, morally just very questionable. And then all of a sudden you've got to kind of figure out if you still want to be around them, if you want to be in that gym with them and everything else. And it can be tricky. But the next thing is that I've seen a huge amount, and it's what I call low-level bad behaviour. Now, this can be on both sides. It can be the personal trainer, but it could also be the client. And what I find is that familiarity breeds contempt. So you just get used to it. a trainer wants a new client. Happy days. I've got a new client. I've got a new stream of income. The client is like, fantastic. I've got a personal trainer who understands me and has get me in great shape. So there's this excitement at the beginning, right? It's like setting up a new business. You're going to conquer the world. And then all of a sudden, 3 months in, things start to just get a bit slack. People turn up late. They cancel last minute. They don't really understand that this is actually a work relationship, and because it goes up to being friendly really quick. And this is the big one. Personal trainers on the phone. I swear to God, I could go over with a 10 kilogram weight and smash them in the face. Now, I'll say this right. I will say this. They might be putting information in about the client. But when you just see them and they're looking and they're just kind of going, flicking through and then kind of putting the phone back in the pocket while the person's doing a set and they stood behind them where they can't see them, and it's just like, pay attention. Somebody's lifting weights, they could drop it, something could slip off, but that's not uncommon. Personal trainers on the phone is like one of my great, massive bugbears. And then the one that Tony's mentioned here is dependency. And, he says, what about how dependent you can become on them for motivation to keep going? So what happens if you become psychologically dependent and they are the motivation, to keep you going? Personally, I think it comes down to one thing, and that is, if you've got the money, there's no issue. If they help you achieve your goals, get you where you need to be, they make it a bit more fun, they help keep you motivated, you're going to be seeing them, so you want to, you might want to impress your personal trainer. You want your personal trainer to go, you've had a great week, and you go, high five. And if that helps keep you going, then it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think dependence is a strong word, isn't it? The challenge would be is if you've got mental health issues. So if you need, as in genuinely deeply need, that personal trainer to be there, and if they're not because they've gone on holiday and you don't see them for 2 weeks, and it becomes a problem, then that's a separate issue. I will say that. And if that's the case for anybody, then you have my greatest sympathy. Absolutely, 100%. But if you rely on your personal trainer to help you achieve your goals just because they know what to do and what to tell you don't want to think about what you need to train, you just want somebody else to do it, then I don't see a particular issue with it. And the fact is, for me, I became good friends with my personal trainers. I saw both of them compete. The first one came and lived with me for like 3 months. He sold his house and he said, I'm going to go and live somewhere or whatever, rent a place. I said, no, come and live with us. Just live in the back room. We've got a spare room. So he said, yeah. So he came and lived with me for 3 months, right? And and when he competed, so he competed in 2012, which is a few months after we started training together. And I went and saw him, and he was covered in all the gravy shit like I was, when I competed. I was wiping a naked man down at the end of it in the back room. I know it all sounds rather weird. It was all above board, just about. But yeah, I mean, he needed to get all this crap off because it just goes everywhere. So I was wiping him down on his back with this towel. I got really good mates with him. And so that can be a challenge if you then want to kind of extricate yourself and go in a different direction. Because later on, I didn't use him to do my prep for my bodybuilding. I used somebody else, and that was, a small issue. With the other one, again, we socialized a great deal. We went out for meals, we went out for coffee. I went to his house, went out with him and his partner. We became really good mates. So, that sounds like a positive, but actually it blurs, the lines can become really blurred really quick. So those are the 3 cons. How much it's going to cost you, especially if you need to do it long term. The quality of the relationship, the quality of everything else going on inside there, the quality of the information, and then the human factor. Just all the bits and pieces that can go wrong. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the 5 things that I think you really need to consider when it comes to choosing a personal trainer. The first is this: get to know the gym as well as you can where you're going to be training. So if you find a personal trainer, maybe it's online, maybe, and you know, or recommendation, and you're actually going to go and physically do it inside a gym, you need to go and look at the gym. You need to go and do a few sessions, because you know you're not just buying the PT, you're buying the environment, the type of people that go there, the cleanliness, the type of equipment, the owners. I mean, there's a whole range of stuff, because gyms are unique environments, and they're very, uh, you know, it's a very living environment. People go in there. There's a lot of people coming through, sometimes hundreds, if not 1,000 people a day, or through a big gym. And you know, you're all using the same toilets, you're using the same cooking facilities. You've got, you know, there's a lot going on. Learn, go to the gym and get to know it. If you don't like the gym, you're never going to be able to train there, even with a PT. Second thing is, if you can, get to know the PT before you start training with them. So like me, I just hung around the PTs after I'd finished training. When, you know, back in 2011, I got to know them all, got to know Rich, you know, we became kind of mates and friendly just in the gym. And then I started using him as a personal trainer. Happy days. So with Sam, it was different. So the second one who took me on the bodybuilding journey, what happened there was I got in touch with the guy who was a big name in the natural bodybuilding field. And I said, mate, can you give me 3 recommendations? He said, so he gave me 3 names. It was really weird. Because what I did was I contacted them all exactly the same time. So I sent them all a message exactly the same time. One never got back in touch. One took a month and got my name wrong. Sam got back in touch inside 2 minutes and just said, yeah, come down and see me. And I just thought that was a little bit of a litmus test. If they get back in touch, they're friendly, they invite me down, get stuck in, and they're quick on the phone. And, you know, because the thing is, I know that with personal training, you're going to have questions. Can I do this? Can I do that? Is it okay to phone? Not pester your personal trainer all day, every day. But you want to have a good working relationship and someone who replies quickly. So that was my litmus test. The third one is test the water. I'm going to say this even though I shouldn't say it, right? I'm going to say it, right? So when I first worked with my personal trainer, my first personal trainer back in 2011, don't say it. I'm going to say it. So I was working with him, and what happened was I said, I'm going to book you for a few sessions, so I did. So we did some training and we did legs. And I had his mobile number. So I woke up the following day and my arse was hurting because we've been doing squats or something. So I sent him a message and I said, I've woken up this morning and my arse is hurting. Is it from the training? Or did you slip a cheeky finger in? Right. And literally he came straight back and he turned around and he said, it was the training because I charge for the cheeky finger. I was like, this is a guy for me. So I was testing the waters. And you know, I am unoffendable. I'm dead blunt. I don't want people to sugarcoat shit. If I need to learn something, if I'm doing it wrong, you just tell me. And that guy was as, you know, harder than a coffin nail. And that's what I needed. And I thought, I'm down to earth. I'm a bit rude. I'm a bit coarse. And I'm going to be spending 2 or 3 hours a week with this guy. He's going to be helping me achieve my dreams. And I need to know where I stand. And that's exactly what I did. Next one, be very specific about your needs. Don't just sit there and think, oh, I need a personal trainer. You'll end up 3 months, 6 months down the road, you'll have spent a few £100. It'll just be a waste of time and money. And then once you know what it is that you want to achieve, you push that personal trainer hard. You make sure that they understand. If you've got questions, you go, well, why are we not doing carnivore? Why don't you do carnivore diet? Why not keto? Why are we training a 4-way split instead of 3-way split? Why am I not doing a whole body train? Why am I not doing this? Challenge them really hard. And if they're a bit prissy and a bit precious and it's like, don't challenge me, I'm the personal trainer, they're not the one for you. Get them to show their hand exactly what it is they know and how good or bad they are. You know, and as the phrase goes, you only find out how strong a tea bag is when you put it in hot water. So you decide, you're the client, you decide what you want, and you push that personal trainer as hard as you can. And the last one is cost. I know I put it down as a con, but basically sit down and see if you can afford it. Ideally 12 months. Just try and sign up for 12 months. You know, set yourself a target. If you've got £50 to lose a pound a week. Happy days. And a personal trainer will achieve that. So those are the 5 things to consider, right? Get to know the gym as well as you can. Get to know the personal trainer as well as you can. Test the personal trainer the moment they walk out the door and you start working with them. Be very specific about what it is that you want to achieve and tell them. Reverse engineer in your head and tell them, and then make sure you can afford it. And if you do that, you will be fine. Right, so let's have a look in here. My issue with self-coaching is that I will always tend to coach to my own strengths, not to my weaknesses. Yeah. So I kind of get where you're coming from. I'm gonna assume that I'm gonna assume AJ that when you say my issue with self-coaching is I will always tend to coach to my own strengths, not to my weaknesses. So the thing is that I'm gonna make an assessment there about what you're saying, which is basically you keep doing the things you do well. You're not looking at your weaknesses. And for example, a good example would be body parts, right? So it's a classic thing, isn't it? You know, guys don't like doing legs. They don't like doing legs. But if you're 45 or over and you're going in a gym and you're doing any kind of resistance training and you're not doing legs, you're a fucking idiot. I'm going to say that out loud. If you're not doing legs, you're a fucking idiot. When we get older, I'm nearly 60, our stability is going to be really critical. And it's all well and good having strong upper body to help you with the fall. What you want is strong legs to stop you falling in the first place. Don't skip leg day. It's an absolute classic. It's a meme, isn't it? That's been around since year dot. That guys skip leg day because all they want is chest and biceps. Look good in a t-shirt. It's foolish. Not only that, but when you find with your arse is the biggest muscle in your body, right? So when you're doing leg training, as long as you're doing it well, leg press, a bit of hack squat, you're going to be developing your arse cheeks. They're brilliant for strength across your whole back, lower back, everywhere. Really, really important. So the thing is that you've got to work on your weaknesses. How many guys train calves? Like hardly any. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, when if you're on the beach, maybe you don't go to the beach that often, but certainly if you like wearing shorts and it's the summer, what are the bits that people see? Forearms, right? These bad boys, and calves. Why would you want that? Great legs, a good upper body, nice physique, and these like little spindly calves? I don't know. So the thing is, I always do all body parts. It's really, really important to me. Commitment to self-improvement, it's all in your control. Whether it's weight loss, fitness, muscle gain, it's all in your mindset. It's all purely psychological. It is. I've always said losing weight is 100% psychological. And people go, well, it can't be 100%. I go, yeah, it is. Because until you switch in your head, until you click that button, then you're never gonna find anything else. Because all the information is there. And pretty much everybody can get access to enough good food. Besides which, if you stop eating shit food, even if it's cheap shit food, the chances are your food bill's not going to go up. So it's not usually a financial issue. Gyms now are dirt cheap. Holy shit. I mean, with Planet Fitness in the US and Pure Gym in the UK, you can get a gym for 25 quid a month. And I'm not saying it's a giveaway amount of money. If you can't afford 25 quid, I get it. Or if it's 40 bucks. I mean, it's like $25 in Planet Fitness in the States. And I understand if you can't afford it, I get it. If you're really skint. But these gyms, you can go into these gyms 24 hours a day. You're training for less than £1 a day. And so the fact is that, there are not the barriers that are there. I can remember starting in 2011 in Fitness First in Halifax, it was £35 a month. Pure Gym now isn't £35 a month in Halifax. And, we're 14 years later. So the thing is that it is 100% psychological. And that might be where the personal trainer comes in. Because you go and see the personal trainer and you're going, I just can't do it on my own. I just need somebody to kick my ass, tell me what to do, and you're going to be the trigger. Fantastic. Well, then that's what you should use them for. But it is all psychological, which is the worst thing in the world. Because if it was that easy to just switch our brains, we all would. And there'd be nobody overweight, unless they were by choice. AJ, where is the British flag? I thought there was I thought that was a thing over there. I think there's enough British flags out. Although, people people say they're absolutely everywhere, and yet I go out and I don't really see that many. So we're a big enough country, there's enough flags. Tony, 20 to 45 quid an hour in the northeast. Yeah, 200 to 45 for 450 for 10 sessions. Losing loads of pounds. The thing is, I've seen some fantastically highly motivated people who just like a training partner. They don't want to rely on a friend because friends can let you down. Oh, I will never train with a mate again. Never, 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 never. I did it in my 20s and it was just fucking awful. They would just turn up late, not turn up at all, just cancel at the last minute. Let's do it tomorrow. And I was always on time, always there, never missed. And it just became a piss take. So for me, no. So the fact is, if you can afford a personal trainer, actually, it's a great person to train with. I never trained with my first personal trainer, but my second one, Big Sam, who got me to the bodybuilding one, I trained with him on occasions together. Me and him trained together, and that was amazing. So the fact is, you can have it both ways. When he says arse, I think in British language it means glutes. Yeah, glutes is the technical term. Your ass, your big ass. You need to get a big fat ass. Nice big rounded pair of peachy ass cheeks. That's what you need. My local Black Iron gym is $10 a month. Wow. Well, the problem is using the single men's room after a £250 later who's just had a 150 grand shake. Mate, I've been in the gym in the not too distant past where they only had one toilet to go for a dump and it had no lock on it for the year that I went in. No lock. And I was like, when you go, yeah, we're going to get it done. Yeah. Small independent gym, never got done. So either you were going up and going, oh, sorry, mate, yeah. Or I was in there and somebody would just come up and they'd open it up and go, yeah, I'll give you a shout. And I'm not soft and sensitive or precious about much, but if I go for a dump, I want to do it in peace and quiet, and I don't want anybody watching me. Challenges you get with independent gyms. Right, well, that's tonight done. I have a speaking gig tomorrow, so I'm going to get all my glad rags ready and get my slides done for tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate you being here. I need to sort out that issue about the sound with the picture, because I thought it was quite nice to be able to put pictures up in the middle of it so you're not just staring at my face for an hour. But thank you for coming on. And if you're watching the replay as it goes up in the main feed, I appreciate you watching it too. And I'm just going to leave and say that if you want to come over and have a look at school.com, lose 50 over 50, get yourself over. The link is in the top of the description for the channel, and I'm going to put it in as a pinned comment at the top of this video. Come over and see us. You'd be very, very welcome. 150 gram protein shake. Your kidneys would explode. Yeah, that seems a lot. As an aside, for many a year, people have said you can only have 30 grams of protein per meal. That's as much as the body can absorb, and that is kind of being shown to be not be true, because it goes into your stomach, it goes into your intestines, and guess what? Your intestines are extremely long, so it has a huge absorption possibility. But 150 grams, not for me, my friend. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Tony. Do we get to interact with you on school? Yes, you do, AJ. Some people would say too much. I'm all over it like a bad rash. Yeah, you do. So we have discussions. I'm going to be doing some group calls soon. They're going to be a bit like this, really, but it's just going to be for the members who are in there. So come over and have a look, AJ, if you wish. And if you don't like it, then you can leave. We've already had a few people leave. Don't be too cool for school. You may learn something. Yeah, I like doing school. It's become a very, very dear thing to me. Wonderful people over there, magnificent guys, only men, no women. and we're all a certain vintage. We're all like 50 or over, give or take, and struggling like fuck to lose weight. So we're struggling together. But I tell you what, the knowledge that's come out of it has been wild. So the stuff that I've learned, these are smart guys, and they're coming over and they're sharing a great deal of stuff. So I get the chance to share my stuff, and I thought I'd be like king of my little castle. It's not quite worked out like that. I'm learning as much as I'm teaching, but it's been wonderful to have them over there. And we've had some people. One guy said he'd lost 18 pounds. That he said he wouldn't have lost if he hadn't been part of the school group, and that fills my heart with joy, genuinely. So yeah, if you fancy it, get yourself over. Have a good evening. If you're watching this, for the few people watching it live, and if you're watching it on the replay, make sure you drop some comments. If you've got some questions to ask, you want to know more, drop some comments. Tell me what you think, and tell me if there's anything I've missed out, because I'm just trying to have a quick run through of the benefits and the ups and downs, pros and cons of getting a personal trainer. Have a fabulous week.